Okay, so if you remember where we left off, we're going to jump right into it because we've got a lot to do. We're now going to start building out our process. Now, we need some parameters. You may hear me say the word variables because to me at the end of the day, they're kind of the same thing. But what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and add some. So we'll go to here. We're going to create a new folder. And this one's going to be user input, okay? Input. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, oh, you know what? Let's go back to our file first. So what we did is I kind of did put together a little bit of the use case here for us to help us figure out what we're going to do. So we're going to clean the database. We're going to start some mock-up data ourselves. I have Nolio do that. And I apologize, my laptop's running pretty high. So if you hear this sound, like running water, it's ironically my laptop. So what we're going to do is in our actions, we need to create two of these right here for our folders. We're going to run the job, scan the PII, do our website. None of these right here need to be in the same order. And then run our test with our fake, so forth, so forth. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and let's create our variables. One thing that I don't know if I had the chance to explain is when you kick off the batch script, the action is going to think that it's finished. Okay. Now the problem is we have to give TDM time to complete. I could not find a wait time action. Maybe there is one. If not, it may be a good use case to build one. But there's a trick to that. What we can do is put a user input just for this demo. So I'm going to say new string, and I'm going to say is mock complete. Let's just say mock data. And we're going to make this a user input, okay? And you'll see what those are if you've never seen them before. And we're going to create another one. And what we need this one to say is PII complete. And we're going to make it a user. There we go. Now, perfect. So now what we need to do is a couple more for our folders. So we'll call this folder params. I was just thinking because I should have made those all capital. That's some of the best practice, but that's okay. Tomato, tomato, just don't follow my lead. Yeah, okay, they're all lowercase. That's fine. So let's go ahead and create two new for here. And what we need here is, if you remember our thing, we need a workspace path. So we'll call this workspace path. And again, I don't like spaces. You're okay to have spaces. Just from a developer's point of view, it's bad practice. We're actually going to make these environment variables. Okay. And then I'm actually doing a scan of my hard drive. So if you want to know what that is, or actually I'm technically trying to rebuild a hard drive that got crashed from my Mac. So let's go here and we're going to call this one website path. Okay. Because that's going to be our path to our website. Okay, so now we save those. So now we have two environment variables, which we're going to change later. The reason being is because you may want to change those without actually having to redeploy and rebuild and all that stuff again, right? So it's my opinion is it's better to put those there. So let's talk about these for a second. There are 4 different types of parameters. Well, there's many different types. There's 4 different scopes. There's internal, which is going to be just with internal to the flow. User input, which it's going to pop up and wait for the user to say something. Environment variable is a global variable that you can set up here in your environments. And then release is a variable that is basically, it gets its data or it gets its value when the release happens. And you'll see that if I do the artifact video, which I'm sure will. So, because that's how artifacts are defined. Now, as far as types goes, there's a lot of types, okay? So, but this is what we have now. So what we're going to do is start off, let's go ahead and add, first thing we got to do is create our flow. So we're going to say new, action, and SQL. So we have underneath our databases, we're going to execute a SQL command. So we just want to execute it directly. So there's a file on SQL, right? But we don't want the file. It's a pSQL. We're just going to do the command directly into our section. So right here, and we're going to call this clean database. Okay. And I don't like putting the parameters here because you can't drag and drop as easy. Now, you could put a lot of these values in your parameters because we're going to use them a lot. Do we want to do that? No, we're going to use it twice, so it's fine. Localhost, database name is going to be orders underscore E for empty. My top secret user, and the password is I'm not telling you. But again, it doesn't matter because this is all local. And the truth is I'll probably blow it away afterwards anyway. So SQL query to execute. So the one thing about these little pencils, use them because they pop out. So this is going to be delete from, let's just grab it from over here. It doesn't have to be all this, but in this case, I'm just going to leave it all this. So we can go from there and then save. Now this part is kind of tricky. Isn't it update? Now, in theory, update means I'm updating the records, right? Add new, update. But in this case, it's saying, are you modifying the actual data? So the answer is yes, we are. So this should say, is this a CRUD function? Are you modifying data? So CRUD is create, read, update, delete. Are you doing any of those functions on the data itself? Yes, we are. So that part's kind of misleading. And there's other things we can do. We can put, like if we're doing a select, we can put our results in the CSV file. There's a lot of good things you can do here. Oh, one important thing, let me save. And I'm going to go steal this from another app. Here, maybe. Nope. Let's see. Give me a second to find it. Maybe here. Is we need our connection string. So yes, this is one that I built in the past. So that looks right. But what we need is this connection string here. Okay, so now we'll go back over here. And give it 2 hours to load. Just kidding, it's always my default is 2 hours. Come on, you take it too long. There we go. Okay, so what we want is back in our actions, our database, prep, here, clear, and we want this as our connection string. So, bam. Okay, there we go. So the connection string is pretty straightforward, but it's a JDBC connection because that's what's running release automation, right? So, well, it's a Java-based, put it that way. So this is a Java-based connection, even though it connects to a Microsoft SQL. There may be a different way to do that. I don't know. There may be a better way, but this way works. So why complain? Now, oh, that's funny. Database name is not GitHub, so that's even wrong anyway. You know, this may not be working. I'm just kind of curious. Let's see if it worked. Let's test it. Go. Because I just noticed that's a completely different database. That is a connection string for another tool. In theory, you should be using the ODBC anyway. So there's failures. Let's see what they are. Okay. So tell me what my issue is. Let's download the file. Maybe I do need the connection. Download, that's fine. That's kind of good. You can see how to debug it. Failed. Here. Yep. So it does need the JDBC connection. Okay, that's fine. So we'll get it. It's just odd that it's not pointing to the right database. Okay, so that's good to know, though. The reason I say that is because it knows the server, it knows the database, it knows the username and password. So I guess it still needs this just because of the connection here. But let's go ahead and fix this. Orders. E, sorry, I was about to say DB, and the rest of it should be fine. So save. Now let's test it. Go. And it wants to know a test agent. Keep in mind, this is kind of important. When you test here, number one, you can't test if you have release variables, right? Because common sense, you're not doing a release. And a lot of times you can't do it if you don't have the enterprise here yet, because the enterprise variables do not show up until you use them, okay? So just keep that in mind. That's important. I'll say it again, environment variables do not show up in your flows, in your environment screen until you actually use them. I don't know if y'all can hear that. It's very funny. It really sounds like water running, but it's not. It's my laptop. All right, so let's go ahead and start. And give it a few minutes. I may stop this video until that check gets done, but it's going to be an all-day thing. It's like 18 terabytes. So that's good. So let's go see what it did to our database. Now we have no data. Yay. Okay, so we're good there. All right, so back to our designer. And so what we can do is duplicate this. That's just the easiest thing to do. So copy and then paste and copy. And then we'll just rename it and we'll just say it. Generate. Sorry. Generate. Still spelled it wrong. Here's generate mock data in database. Okay. The only thing is what I'm thinking, because it's kind of throwing me off, is the fact that we don't really need we don't need I'm just thinking out loud. I'm sorry. We are going to have TDM create some mock data. So we're going to create generate simple. You know what? Just let's stop trying to be professional. Add 3 rows of data. Okay, that was too much thought for our label. But we want to know what it is for further down the road. The biggest thing we need to change right here, though, is this query. So we are going to go to this one, I think. Wherever we saw the other ones at, and we're just going to grab it, and I'll explain what it does because it's pretty straight, simple. This one, prep work, generate mock data. Yep, this one. So remember, this pencil thing comes in handy, and you can resize this window so you can see what it's doing. So we'll grab this, cancel, and we'll go stick it over here so we can kind of read it better. So basically, I'm just inserting, and I'm putting values. If you don't know, I'm a guitar player. So we're adding Eddie Van Halen, we're adding David Gilmour, and we're adding Jimmy Page to my database. Okay, so that's all we're doing. So let's grab this. And let's go back over here to this one. Seriously? Hold on. All right, sorry about that. Let's see. So let's go back to our actions. Let's go back to our databases, our prep, and here. And what we'll do is modify this one to be that. And again, it looks kind of ugly, but once you start stretching it out, it kind of falls into place. And I don't know why it likes to put spaces between everything. That's kind of annoying, but I'm not going to clean it up unless it fails. So let's just go ahead and save, and we'll do a test and see what we have. Okay. And it's running. Ta-da, it's done. So let's go back over here. We just delete that, so because we're not using it. And let's run this. And there's our 3. Okay, cool. So pretty simple, right? So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create one flow for that. So database, new flow. Let's see, we'll call it database prep work for flow. Okay. And now we're going to, I guess it's still loading something. Let's let it finish doing whatever it's doing here. Okay, there we go. And we want to clear the database, and then we want to add our 3 rows. Create a link, and bam. Now the truth is, at this point, I would test this, but we just tested it, so I want to move on to the next part. So the next part is we need to do some file manipulations, right? So let's go to our environments. Oh no, we haven't added those yet, have we? So let's go to here. We're going to say file, and there's a file folders actions, and we want to validate that that folder exists. If it doesn't, we're going to create it. And that gets kind of tricky. Let's see, change, check if permissions, check if file folder exists. There we go. Okay, so we're going to test. Now I'm not going to delete this file. Now those are the videos I'm working on now. I'm not going to delete this file, but the truth is I would bring that down as a artifact, and we still may do that, but this is the file we need to make sure exists. Okay, so what we need to do is yeah, that's fine. Even though it's not a yes or no question, so that's what I was trying to avoid. Check if website folder exists. Okay, and we'll just save. And now the easy thing about that is we can just go from here, and it's our website that we care about. It should exist. False. No, because you got to be careful, right? Because that's a double negative. Because whenever we add our checks here in a few minutes, if I say does exist and this says false, well, that may be true on my flow. So therefore, I will have the wrong flow, if that makes sense. So if not, you'll see it in a few seconds. Okay, so, and since we're here, let's just go ahead and use that other one real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one. Even though we're going to delete it, I'm just, oops, sorry, I meant to paste. Paste. I just want to go ahead and use this other parameter just so we can go ahead and go fill those out real quick. Workspace. Okay. So now, since I've used those, I can go over here and start adding information into those. At least I should be able to. It may be once I deploy it. Let me just double check. Yeah, so once you get further, so notice I can't do anything with it yet. It's because you have to deploy them, then you can use those. And that kind of stinks, but that's okay. Just don't let me forget to do that. Because I'm pretty bad about doing stuff like that and then forgetting. So in that case, let's go back and delete this other one. The reason being is because I can't really test this. I guess I can, and then put the flows back afterwards. That's fine. Like we can go ahead, what I'm saying is we can delete that. And we can actually just do this right here for now. Okay. And then we'll just have to remember to go back and put the parameter in afterwards. So an easy way is just validate it, right? So go. Because the trick is we don't want it to exist. We want to create it. And I think the actual action will do that for us. Let me go look. So let's go ahead and add another action. Folder we want to create. So copy, change, extract. Create empty folder. There we go. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So create website. That's bad. Doesn't match what I'm doing. Create website folder. Okay. So, and then this is going to be the same path. So just for testing purposes, we'll go ahead and do this. Now, once we publish it once, then we'll have these parameters we can set. So we won't have to do the, I definitely don't recommend hard coding your paths because if they change, something happens, yada, yada, yada. So what we're going to do though, is we're going to create another flow. And here we're going to, new flow, we're going to say validate website path flow. Okay. You want to keep your, kind of like programming, you're going to hear me talk a lot about programming because I've been programming since birth, but you want things to be small, right? So you don't want one flow that's so large it's hard to read. Create a bunch of little flows and then merge those together. Okay. So what we're going to do now is does it exist? So if it does exist, we don't want to do that. So that may be on failure. Let's test it. Oh, I gotta save it because it does exist. I may have to set it not to fail. Yeah, probably do, but that's okay. That's what happens. So nothing happened. It didn't go down there. That's kind of cool. Because it does exist. But let's go and delete it. All right, let's just rename it. Oh, no, we got the path. I was going to say I don't want to lose the name of the file, but we won't because we got it over here in our thing. So let's go back to designer and let's test it now and see if it, so that's what I mean by a false negative. You got to be careful because if I say does it exist, but I tell the action it's not supposed to exist, then is that true or not? Okay, so I know why this happened. That's okay. We need to go back and set this back to designer, create website, check if it exists. So over here in our settings, we do not want it to pause on failure. There we go. Okay, so now let's see if that fixed, and now let's test it. That's a really tricky situation. Worst case, we'll just create it and deal with that later. Okay, so that worked. So it did fail. It went down to the next one, It didn't pause. That's very important. Make sure you don't pause. And it created a folder. Okay, cool. So now that actions is done. So what's next? Let's go back to our handy dandy notebook. So that's done. We don't need to check for that. I guess we could. But even if it creates a blank one, then it won't matter because it won't have the files on it. So we're not going to validate that. Okay, so now we need to start running some scripts, right? So let's go to our database actions. No, batch scripts. Okay, so these can get kind of tricky. So what we're going to do, I created one in the past. Like when I say in the past, I mean like the other day. They're not in there. I just want to see which action I used because it's like there's a PowerShell. There's a couple of others that you can. Did I not create it? I thought I did. Oh, so this is one that has the mass. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so which bat file? Run command. Okay, so that's what we need to run command. Okay, easy enough. And you can kind of see how this one works, right? So folder, run command, yada, yada, yada. But what I want, oh, you know what I was doing? Oh, there's a bat file. Okay, that's what I was doing. Yeah. Okay, so and notice these are enterprise level. So it's very similar to what we want to do. So let's go back to here, right here. And let's go create a bat script. So there are so many actions. There's not really one for running batch scripts. But there's running command line. And that's the same thing, right? So what we're going to do, this first one is going to be generate mock data. And we'll put TDM in there so we know it's TDM. Okay, save. And then here, this is, unfortunately, we're going to hard code this for now. Here. And then that is the name of this bat file. Can't believe I closed this, but that's okay. Is that the right path? Yep. And then, so the first thing we got to do is delete our, so the idea is that you would run, you'd wait and get your list of job IDs, or you could read the JSON and do that. But again, you'd have to wait for that to finish and then tell it to do that. So we're going to do publish job. This is, so when you do something in TDM, it's called a publish. But I'll let you see what that kind of looks like. And if you want any of these scripts, I write scripts all the time. So if you need any of these scripts, just let me know. I'll be glad to share them. Like, how do you call the job? So you call the job, you pass in the payload, right? It's command line, so it's kind of ugly. We're using curl in this situation. So you want to make sure curl exists and it's right there. So, and then the working directory is probably going to be the same thing because this doesn't do anything, but that may be, I don't know if you need that or not. Let's save. So there is a way for a process to finish, but again, the command line's finished. It's just what happens in TDM doesn't finish. You can also put a standard out, but there's not going to be anything there. I recommend these if you are truly doing logging with your bat scripts in case it fails, then you can do that. So there's a lot of good settings here, but let's just go ahead and test this one. And let's see what happens. So there's a couple ways to test it. Once it kicks off and it had errors, so I guess it does need that working folder. I'm not even going to check the errors. I'm just going to go back. So there's only two things it could be: is this is not the correct location, which I'm pretty sure it is, or I misspelled it, or it needs a working directory. So we'll just make the working directory itself. Okay, and that would be like if it creates the logs. Like I can put the name of a log here, and it would automatically put it there. So let's just give it a try. So what we got here. And you would think that would have a star by it if it's mandatory, but okay. So it was mandatory. And unless I'm crazy, I don't see a star. So yeah, that one has a star. You think that would have a star, but it doesn't. Okay, so let's go look at TDM now and see if that actually kicked it off. So it did kick it off. It's not started, and that's fine. We'll give it a few minutes and let's go on to our next task. So after that, we need to, and again, this is why the handy dandy notebook is very important. So we need to generate data, which we just did. I mean, it's right here. That's what I'm looking at when I talk to you. So we got now 1 and then 2. Okay. So our next one is scan for PII. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. copy, and then paste. We're going to have quite a few of these. So this one is going to be, let's call run PII to the data TD. Okay, so that's fine. And this is going to be a different script. So this one, oh, it's actually going to be a different path. So let's just go ahead and do this. And then let's do this. I need sound effects, sorry. Rename. Go paste that there. And everything else should be the same. So we'll go ahead and save. But I can't do PII until, oh, sorry, that's my email. We have to cut that. Let's just close that. But what I was saying is we can't do PII until this is finished. And that's done. So let's validate in the database. That's done. We have Eddie Van Halen, we have David Gilmour, and a bunch of other names. So what we're going to do is run our PII scan now. And we're going to test. And then go. Now this could be kind of tricky because we had to wait for that to finish. And that's where our user inputs can come in to kind of help us with that process. Now that's done. That usually runs pretty fast. So let's see what happens over here. Not yet. I lied. I said it was pretty fast, but there's no way to see it either. So we'll give it a few minutes. But when you build the flow for that, okay, so that probably wasn't cut. Sorry about that. If I remember to do that, my son walked in the room. But with saying that, where are we? Oh, let's check on our PII. Now, unfortunately, the PII for some reason doesn't show up over here. It'd be nice if it did. Maybe I'm... No, it's not subservice catalog. Yeah, so only the generators show up, which is kind of odd, but that's okay. So let's go to here and see if it has not completed. So we may have an error with that. So let's do it ourselves. Maybe there's something wrong here. So if I take the command and we cd to what we're doing, it says it ran just fine, but I don't feel like it's fine. So let's go to, let's just try it, see what happens. Because that's what we're running anyway, right? Oh, so there's an issue with this right here. So we may have to cd to that folder and then run it. So let me see, where's our DBO? It said there's no, is the path wrong? Okay, that's fine. So we may have to cd. Now that's where your standard out would come into play, right? Because all that would have been written to a file. Let's go here. And let's just clear this. And now let's try run that. Yeah, so we have to cd to the folder and then run it. That's kind of odd though. That's okay. We can do that too. I think I can do it all in one line though. So let's try this. Can I not edit this? Hold on. So I'll say cd from there and then run that. Okay, let's see if that works. Save. Let's refresh our database first. Okay, so we got a Dalton. All right, so let's just go ahead and test and go. If not, we'll have to do two separate calls, but I think that would work. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we'll get a green light there. But let's go over here and see what happens here. Let's look at what our thing says. So command line execute. So CD to there. So it's still running. So this chart is CD to there, which is kind of weird. You think that would error out, but it didn't. Okay.